morning. How are you doing? Running an analysis of the song. Charlie, it tells you how we were flourishing in the Agric sector. Can we say same today?
Yes, I think not as the force we were using at the previous decades. I think through modernization, our attentions are drawn to other development sectors, like as you mentioned, the real estate sector, and which is displacing some of the Agric lands. That is the sad news.
Interesting. Today's Farmers' Day. I mean, does it still make sense to have Farmers' Day?
It makes a very great sense. It is one thing, people doing something good, and then there is another side of it that you need to appreciate them, to just bring them to the equation, to know that they are valued when it comes to building the nation. So Farmers' Day is very important, and we may have to, no one can dispute that fact, but we would need to ask ourselves, how is it being done? That is the conversation.
And what do you think about how it's being done?
Yeah, I think we are trying to move away from the idea that initiated this, where we are getting to have our farmers to get that echo for the great thing they are doing, to a ceremonial kind of activity where we give very big speech and then little is seen by the farmers when it comes to implementation. And that I think, as a researcher, that is a challenge for us.
William, Farmers' Day, does it still make sense to have Farmers' Day?
Well, fundamentally, the principle is okay. A day set aside to recognize them. But as has been said by Ferdinand, we all know that it goes beyond that. And the things that we say, we need to operationalize them, make sure that we give them incentives to make farming easier, because the young ones are still not getting in there. It's still the older folks who are doing the job. And to think about the fact that in 2023, we are still using hoe and cutlass in our farm spaces is very discouraging. Technology is moving things in Israel. If you go to Israel, the way they are using technology to move Agric is fundamentally part of their Agric system. But here, we don't have that. I mean, little is being done as against the much talk that we have. So basically, it is, for me, the application of technology. And the researcher is here, so maybe we'll hear more in that space. Having said that, we also should be talking about climate change and the way we handle the environment, because farming is not done in space, it's done on the ground. So if you are destroying the very ground or platform where we can do
ecosystem and all
exactly.
of that.
So the conversations are many, and the challenges are mammoth. But I think if we all come together beyond the conversations and put our shoulders to the wheel, I think we can get something going from the agriculture sector.
It's interesting you mentioned these perspectives, because the whole conversation is about how, in the last segment before now, Community Voices, a young farmer called and he said that, you listened to him.
Yes.
And he said that, look, he is interested in farming. He has acres of cassava ready for harvest. He's gone to the district assembly. He's gone to all the powers that be. He's a young person, started farming at age 7. And there's no help for him. So how do you encourage another Kwaku Mensah or Ni Agbo Aye to get into farming? You're not really. I mean, Doc, that's a big problem, is it not?
It is a big problem. And then I was listening to the young man, and I felt the pain we feel when we go to the field. As he mentioned, we are in 21st century. Hoe and cutlasses are out. We can't be using those ones for farming. His farm, and we don't also look at the value chain. So this is a young man who has invested a lot, fertilizer, maybe funds into his farm. He's finished, the crops are ready. We never developed the value chain to know that there's transportation part of farming. So the guy was talking about he needs a car to even convey his cassava.
That's right.
So that value chain have been abandoned. We are not thinking about roads. We had a nice program looking at developing agricultural roads.
Cocoa roads and all of that.
Yes. We couldn't close that loop very well. The young one is looking for markets. We didn't look at that value chain also very well. And he's looking at, I'm very pretty sure that he's going to use manpower to be uprooting those cassava.
And that is a problem. Because not all the cassava will come out.
No. And then he would be tired and very exhausted. And that is one of the key things. We at United Nations University currently even running a research program in Africa where we are looking at some of these barriers. It is funding issues. It is technology issues. But we have young people who have very, very clean ideas that they can develop simple technologies to uproot those cassavas. And if it needs power, people are developing clean power sources to power this. And what are they doing? So for us, we relate very much to this because one of our current projects that is running in Africa is looking at how we can innovate for innovate clean technologies by funding youth. So there's a funding source we also need to look at. But our project is looking at funding youth to develop technology locally, not to import them. Yes.
Dr. Edward Karewa is the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union. Good morning, Doc. Thank you very much for your time. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, sir. Johnny. I am not Doc. I'm on my way coming.
Yes. Sorry about that. I fast-forwarded the process.
You're fast-forwarding it.
Are you able to tell me that it still makes sense to celebrate Farmers' Day in Ghana today?
Well, the way it's celebrated, it doesn't appear to me that there is any sense in celebrating it. But if you talk about celebrating Farmers' Day, it makes sense. But the manner in which it is celebrated today, it doesn't make sense.
What is wrong with what we're doing now?
You see, we should ask them, those who are celebrating it, to tell us what they achieved with this celebration. And then also ask the farmers what they achieved with this celebration. Look, we can begin from today and then look back, and then you'll see. We have got a very long theme that they have used today for the celebration of farmers. And the question one will ask is that particular theme from today onwards to achieve that theme, or it is telling us about what we have achieved, and they are climaxing it with that particular theme. Again, I want to ask, in the past, we have got over 30 teams that have been used every year. Each year there's a team. What is the essence of the team? There was a time where we said, eat what you grow and grow what you eat.
Domestication,
investing in agriculture and whatever and so on. Have we achieved those teams? Why is that every year we have another team? Now, having said that, you can see that it is just a ritual that we carry on and then come with this team, and then we applaud that we have got a good team, yet we do nothing about that team. The other thing has to do with what is all this celebration about when we know very well that we are promoting Galamsey to destroy the basic infrastructure of agriculture. What will the farmer who is being honored today benefit when a month after Galamsey encroached on his land and destroyed that land?
Wow.
You see, what is this celebration to a farmer who in a month's time, his son, his relation, his family member, dies in a Galamsey pit? What is the use of this celebration to a farmer that the river that he ought to have been using for watering his farm and drinking from it, that river is no longer supporting aquatic life, and it has also not. It has now become poisonous. He cannot step foot in that river. He cannot swim in that river because you don't know what is going to happen to you today and tomorrow. What is the use of this celebration to me as a farmer and to any person that I take an award today, I dined with the authorities, and then my children, suffer from the poison that I get from the soil, the poison from the rivers, and then my grandchildren also suffer from that. What's the use of it? We should be realistic. The mere fact that you call it in the name of the farmers does not mean that it is good for the farmers. The celebration simply addresses nothing, and it's irrelevant until we make it relevant.
I see.
And what? Yes, it's irrelevant until we make it relevant by ensuring that a celebration addresses farmers' needs.
Let me bring in a doctor in studio. So these are the key points that Doc has raised, and I see a lot of some of the points that you raise, merging with what he has also said. Let's start from the basics. I'm a young person. I have land that my grandfather left for us. I'm not thinking of going into real estate, but I want to farm. What do I do? What support is there for me?
All right. I'm going to tackle this question from the research point of view, where we listen to various stakeholders. If you ask this question, you pose this question to government or maybe a financial institution, maybe they would be telling what really they should do. First, let me mention that we have all it takes to be great in Agric. The land resources are there. About half of our country's land can be used for farming. So and we have rain that is fairly stable. We also have the human resource, as you mentioned, a lot of youth without employment. And whenever there is problem, there is that drive for innovation. So looking at their team for this year's even Farmers Day, delivering smart solutions. First, we can't go into agriculture as we used to do some decades past. You have a land, it's one of the resource. You need some funding to start.
And where do you get that from?
That is where we need to be asking the right questions. That is our Agric Development Bank doing exactly what they were asked to do. And microfinance and rural banks trying to come into this space to be able to finance young entrepreneurs or those who are going to Agric. If not, you will need to look for your own capital raising opportunities from family or whatever. But that makes it very dangerous. You get so tired and you kind of feel like I'm a graduate, I'm a young person. Why should I be going through this soil with hands, with that equipment? And we need to look at that very well. Ministry of Agric have a mechanization section, but how is it working? Are they really feeling it? Are we leveraging on power to be able to mechanize our system? We already in Africa and even in Ghana, we have a kind of a little legacy infrastructure in terms of agriculture industrialization. So it is time for us to start right and start it very well. So number one, we need to look at how we mechanize our agriculture.
We're talking about mechanization. I want us to practicalize it. Somebody who is listening to us now, whose grandfather left some 20 acres of land that he wants to get into either maize or cassava or tomato or pepper or any of those, stuff that can take about 3-4 months, gestate, and then be harvested and sold. He wants to get in there. How do they go about it?
The person may want to I'm talking about the base currently. The person may want to take advantage of if there is a tractor hiring service in their district or their community, which government must be doing more in that to make sure that if we assume that in every district you can find about 5-10 tractors, this is not too much a budget for us to do, where people can access and be able to use to plow. Then the young person can be able to access this. And then the next thing it should be able to access is very simple equipment. And this, I will still tie it into people, another employment opportunity for people who design agricultural equipment, that they could also be financed to develop simple tools. That will be planters. Planters that may not be using motors, but just moving it manually. That is the stage. I'm trying to break it down. I won't say go and buy any machine from China. I will say that there are young entrepreneurs that are developing agriculture technologies. Can they develop? You don't want to spend much on fuel. So can they develop simple planters, pliers that you could push around and it's working? If we are not taking advantage of this, then it becomes challenging. And the youth must also know very well that it takes some more effort to be able to break every ground.
Do you think that our young people are patient enough for investments in the agric sector? Take something like a palm plantation, 36 months before you can see your first fruit. I think if you're looking for quick cash, that's not the space for you.
There are a lot of strategies. I think there is also that awareness creation we need to do. You start a palm plantation, your land is bare. You have some meters that you have plants, palm plants staying there. We have crops that can do within 4 months. So intercropping,
for example, maize,
yes, intercropping must go with that to be able to start harvesting something in 4 months, to start enjoying it before you even wait for the future crop or the tree crops that you are looking at. And then we should also look at other forms of using the animal farming with it.
Okay.
So it is very
you're doing mixed farming
yes.
or intercrop
yes.
Stuff.
But this is not very easy if the government and various stakeholders do not empower this.
What does the government have to do?
The government must make sure that they try to provide agriculture technologies. Farmers, if you go to, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. My brother mentioned Israel. I've got an opportunity to research, to do some work in Israel. It is an issue of the pleasure of working as in the agric sector is great. And because they are simple farm equipment that will aid you. You think a young man will not want to sit on a very small tractor and be plowing with this in a shade over him with nice gloves and nice boots and then close and then take lunch and go back and work? No, they would want to do it. But if there is no implement and he has to use cutlass with very hard palms, it will not be attractive.
Okay. Mr. Carrier, let me bring you in. So these technologies that Doc is talking about, are they available, one? And number two, are they accessible to young people who want to venture into agriculture because they have seen what you do and they want to do some or do more?
Well, certainly the technology, when you say available, it is, in some instances you can say yes, but it is not adequate. You know, for instance, if you say, if I cite a tractor and I say that are there tractors in the country, one will say yes, but how many tractors are there in the country and how many people can get them? So he made it right that said it right by saying that today's people should not continue to do agriculture like in the past. No, that will not be the case. It's even not only the technology. You see, agriculture production, there must be predictability. If you go into the production, you must be able to see, even before you go into the production,
right,
that at the end of the season, I am going to harvest this number of bags, for instance, if it is maize or rice, and then my market is ready. Now, and then my revenue, a bag is going to cost me this, and then I can give an estimate of the revenue. That informs you about how much cost you should be ready to bear. You see, all these calculations must be done. And then again, you also have to be certain that there is some level of comfort in agriculture.
Right.
You know, the young men we are saying they should go into agriculture will go into agriculture without necessarily saying that, oh, I'm targeting the youth. The policies will speak loud.
Okay.
The policies speaks louder that we are not targeting the youth. People who are in agriculture are exiting agriculture. The youth are watching. The youth are watching and seeing that people are produced and they don't have the market. So even if you give them the technology and they go in and they produce and there's no market, then of course They will not go in. Even if you give them free credit, and then they go into agriculture, and at the end of the day, they cannot get market for it, or they have to struggle to bring the produce themselves to the market center to sell, they will not go into it. So there's a cluster of policies that we need to implement at the same time. And that is where I am not seeing government doing that.
Even with Planting for Food and Jobs 2.0, I mean, it's been rebranded, refurbished, and new things have been thrown into the policy as we know it over time. And you say they don't answer these questions that you're raising?
They don't answer them because, you see, if you look at the 2.0 of the Planting for version of the Planting for Food and Jobs, what is it? It's mainly relying on the private sector. It's mainly relying on the private sector aggregators so that they go and look for the produce, they'll support them, they get the credit, and then with the credit, the question I will ask even on the phase 2 is that at the end of the day, with all these arrangements, will the farmer be able to access, for instance, agricultural inputs at a lower cost than the market price? If it is not going to be lower than the market price, then government could better have washed their hands off and then allow the private sector to operate.
Doc, look at this. Listen to this. Jeremy Blind on Facebook is watching us now. Hi, Jeremy. He says, there's an issue of foreign taste of goods disregarding our own. Even the men in power do not eat food produced in Ghana. Production much depends on demand, and if demand for local goods is very low, it will not be much attractive for us to go in. I'm sure he wants to go into farming, but the basic things that you talk about, the market that is available and ready to purchase what he would have invested his time, energy, resources in. And there's a question he's raising. What do you say to this young man?
Is a question to me, sir?
Yes, it's to you. So maybe I'll go over it again.
Okay. No, I've gotten it. Sir.
Great. Let's go ahead then. Let's hear your answer.
I'm saying that, you see, demand is created. Demand is not natural. In fact, natural demand does not, it's not big. For instance, your demand for food consumption is not something big. If you eat a bowl of food, you'll be satisfied for a period. That is why we produce not only for consumption, we also produce for industrial use. So you deliberately create demand. So that is the point that now policy comes in. Policy comes in to create deliberate demand. And if you look at Ghana, we attempted creating this deliberate demand by saying that the school feeding program, we have many SHS schools in the country, in the rural areas and so on. I know these are young men and women who eat a lot, per their age. So we should source the food from the local community, that is the farmers that are there, so that they have market. And the market is just at their doorsteps, you see. But unfortunately, this program failed because it ended up that food to these schools are sourced from Accra. Even some of the food stuffs are imported, to feed them. So we have good policies, we know what we do, but we just refuse to do because it leads to somebody's interest. And again, government is there to ensure that policies as designed are implemented in accordance with the framework and then to the letter. But here is the case. Government has not been able to address that, and yet the policy is on that, we will source our foodstuffs from the community. So demand is created. If government had been able to implement that policy well, the demand that the gentleman is talking from outside will be created. And every country does that. The taste he's talking about is a function of policy. All of us are products of policy. We are influenced by policy. if it is a policy of Ghana to ensure that state institutions or wherever state resources go to is used to procure domestic products, of course, that demand will be huge.
I see.
And
let me bring in Doc here. Doc, so this is what Mr. Kariwe has said. Mm-hmm. He says that demand has to be created. How do we create this demand? And by the way, let me welcome Bismarck Owusu Norty, his head of programs and advocacy, PFAG. Bismarck, thank you for your time. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Great. Doc, how do we create this demand?
All right. So let me relate this to cocoa. Cocoa is doing fairly well. People are farming cocoa and they don't fear, if not maybe galamsey issues, they don't fear to crop because they know they will sell. How did it happen? Because there is an international demand. Mm-hmm. And then Ghana is feeding almost the whole globe with cocoa. What is happening to other crops? Maize. Do we have the system? So it will still come back to the policy, as he mentioned. If we don't have policy that protects our farmers and give them the assurance that when you produce, it will be bought like cocoa. If we don't have various stakeholders like the financial sector trying to create systems that purchase from farmers who cannot maybe link up with Unilever, who cannot link up with the big companies like from Turkey who are buying maize currently from Ghana. If we don't have the financial systems to be able to create this market link for the farmers, will be failing. So I think it is a policy issue. Number two, it is reorientation of our financial system. We get so much comfortable funding buy and sell. Buy from China, we are able to give loans and buy and sell.
It's quick money.
Quick money. We don't want to support our local industry. We fear the financial sector. Currently, there is a project we're doing called Innovate for Clean Agriculture Technologies in Ghana, where we are looking at all this value chain. Women who grow, for example, what's the name? Peanut,
right,
which is groundnut in Gomua district. If it elapses within 1 week without finding a buyer for the fresh groundnut, then they are going to start germinating. So but cocoa doesn't go through those processes.
I see.
Because there's ready market for it.
Bismarck, let me welcome you into the conversation because you mentioned the groundnut, farmer. I know you deal a lot with some of these women. Are these frustrations their frustration? The frustration of the demand not being there because we have a certain taste for what comes from outside. And I relate this to the restriction of some importation that Parliament presently is trying to look at the LI. What do you say, Bismarck?
Good morning again. And on this occasion, allow me to, on behalf of the management of peasant families, say a warm ayuko to our smallholder families. Indeed, for every year, we have to go through this narration about whether or not the Farmers' Day celebration is something that is relevant,
right?
Considering the context and the state of agriculture
and how we celebrate it at all.
And narrowing down to your point about the demand, and tying it down to the restrictions, I'd want to narrow it down on maybe a community like rice for us to have a better and proper perspective. Now, if you look at the rice industry, there are a lot of factors that one would say is accounting for either the low production or the fact that we are not able to meet the national demand. One of the key things that we've realized is our taste for, or the preference for the foreign rice or the imported rice.
Right.
And this didn't come out of nothing. Right, in the early 80s, when we had our structural adjustment program, one of the things that we did was to open our gates to allow for the infiltration of some of these things to the country. And because they were a lot, it had a way of affecting people's choices. So people now became more people more preferred more of the rice to the local rice. And somehow we've not been able to emancipate ourselves from that particular preference. So if there is an agenda to promote the local consumption of particular products, right, then one of the key things that we should do, in addition to other policies, is to see how we can find a way of influencing consumers to change their preference for the type of product that they consume.
Okay. And how do you propose we do that?
And sometimes you need the states to play the leading role.
So you support the LI on the restriction of imports of...
We actually issued a press statement, and if you give me time, I'll just throw some light on it. In principle, we agree with the concept of restricting import of some particular commodities.
Right.
Because we feel that we have the potentials and the comparative advantage to produce them. Case instead, the rice. If you look at the statistics regarding our demand and regarding what we produce, we are just quite close for local production to meet local demand. But there are a couple of things that needs to be done
in terms of the trust in the brands or what?
No. So that's one part of it. Our point is that if you want to protect an industry like rice, the key people that you need to protect is the local rice farmers. The local rice farmers are inundated with a lot of challenges.
For example?
Now, in our press statement, we said that if you want to restrict rice importation, it should be done based on the fact that we have put in place measures to ensure that there is sustainable production of rice over a period.
It comes to a question
how do we do that?
Capacity.
Good. So how do we do that? One, our local rice farmers, our major challenge is that a lot of time we rely on the rains to do our rice farming.
But you have one district, one dam, or one village, one dam.
Don't go there.
I'm going there because no, we need to have the conversation.
Let me talk about that. Let me just veer off to the one village, one dam, and I'll come back to.
I'm asking that question because we said as a country, and we agreed, and maybe Mr. Kariwe will have a bite on this one. We said and we agreed that we're going to put together the farms closer to the dams because we don't want to just have a rain-based, farming season where only 2 times in a year. So something like maize or something like rice, which takes about 3-4 months, by and large to grow and to harvest. We want to have an all year round planting situation, okay? So that we can do two seasons rain-based harvest of rice, and then we have the dams providing irrigation. That's why I'm asking you that question. Where are the dams and how are they affecting?
The question is very relevant, but I'm saying that the discussion on the 1v1 dam is a whole topic because we actually conducted an assessment of some of the dams under the one village, one dam. And my brother, if you look at the results of that assessment, you weep for this country.
Why would I?
A lot of the dams that have been constructed are not fit for purpose.
Yeah.
Because you and I, our thinking and understanding of a dam for irrigation purposes is that in the dry season, there should be water available in the dam to be used.
That's correct.
But almost all the dams under the one village, one dam, in the dry season, they dry off. So what's the point of having a dam that is unusable in the dry season? Some of the dams too, if you go,
it's a digital dam.
They've become death traps that people or farmers are not able to get close to those places. In fact, that's why I said don't go there, because the conversation about one village, one dam is for another day. The issues regarding that particular project, for me, it's painful that as a country, we spent resources to put up that thing as a fiasco. And even my biggest problem is that one of the flagship irrigation facilities that as a country we've had in our plans for over 60 years is the Paulugu Water Dam.
Right.
The plans and the architectural designs have all been done. All we need is resources to do it. In 2019, His Excellency the President, together with government, went to Paulugu to cut a sod for the construction of the dam. In fact, there was a lot of merrymaking. We're all happy that finally
we're going to have solar addition.
In fact, it's a multi-purpose dam. Apart from irrigation, it's also serving as a hydro dam for electricity.
That's correct.
And it was going to cover over 60,000 acres of farmlands. Imagine the impact of that. Johnny, we went there 2 years ago. When we got to the site, the contractors have left site. The buildings that they have put, when they want to start construction, they put up a fence and
that's right.
They makeshift structures. They've collapsed it and left.
The contractors have abandoned the site.
The most annoying aspect is that the sand and stone that they brought to start the process, they've sold it.
Who sold it?
The contractors. Because they are not going to use it anymore. And they've left. Intriguingly, last year's budget, there was an allocation of 200 million Ghana cedis for the same dam. If you go there this year, no single work has been done. So sometimes
I now understand you when you say we should not go there.
For the dams, it's a whole topic on this one.
I now understand you.
So for the rice farmers, irrigation is critical. If you are not deliberate about putting in place structural irrigation mechanisms across all rice growing places in the country, we'll put up a restriction. In the next 5 years, we'll come back to square one again.
Do you think that this is a setup so that the processes that have to be put in place to ensure that you can produce at full capacity to feed have not been put in place, and then the restriction is put there, and then the people say, but we told you they can't produce to feed you, so let's go back to importation. Do you think it's a setup?
This deja vu of what happened during ex-President Kufuor's reign, if you could remember. He actually placed a total ban on importation of rice.
Yeah.
To promote the local...
Following his Nigerian friend.
Absolutely. Do you know what happened?
No.
And it's deep information. The importers of the foreign rice, what they did was to buy the local rice in the system and hoard it. And create a system of what? Shortage.
Artificial shortage.
And then they claim that we cannot produce to meet the national demand. So that's why we are saying that if you don't put the right systems in place and ensure that sustainably you are able to produce to meet demand, then this ally you are bringing, if you are not careful, you even worsen the problem you want to correct.
So if I get you, in principle, you support the ally, but then the conditions have to be met.
Exactly.
And then you can roll it
then
out.
We can go. Because for rice, the rice farmers are absolutely ready to produce for the country.
I see. Let me ask, Mr. Kaiwe, welcome to the studio, online and in person.
Yes.
You're a dangerous man. Tell me, so this is what Zenote has said. Are you ready in terms of capacity and to feed all of us so that we stop buying Obroni food?
Well, let me say that good morning again, and then it's exciting for us to be online and then in person.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I just enjoy some of these things.
Digital farmer,
of course. Well, when you talk about capacity is developed over time. Capacity is not born with, and no nation has woken up one day to have capacity in whatever they do. So when we talk about capacity, we have to look at what do we want. I may have capacity for 200 bags of rice if you want, but I may not have capacity for 500. For me to get the capacity for 500, then it needs some time, and then a gestation period, and then a deployment of resources to expand. So I just think that we are policy bankrupt in this country, and then our policymakers must bow their heads in shame. If you seek today to restrict imports, my question is, have you been able to ensure that we have got the capacity? Look, this ally is a disaster. It is a disaster.
Why do you say that?
I'm saying so because someone must tell us why you send this ally to Parliament and you have refused. The Honorable Minister who went to Parliament to have this LI pass should tell us why he has refused to allow the sugar factory to operate.
The Commander Sugar Factory.
The Commander Sugar Factory.
Is he the one disallowing it?
His predecessor. Then what is his role? Minister for what? Trade and Industry. What is that factory for? Is it not under Trade and Industry? If he knows that he has not got the capacity, why do you think that you have got the capacity to go to Parliament, seek that there should be restriction on sugar? You see, the question you were asking, whether it's not to say that they constrain you not to be able to have the capacity, and later on, turn out to say that you don't have the capacity.
So it's a setup.
It is a total setup, and all those
Ajana 1, Ajana 2,
and all those who are involved in the setup must be called to book. He should come and tell us that the millions of dollars we have spent as a nation to build that factory, whether we will ever produce sugar in this country or not. If we get to know as Ghanaians that the country can never have the produce sugar, then they should let us go and dismantle that factory, use the fabrication there for other things, and know that we don't have a factory at all. But the same man who has refused to ensure that the factory works is the one who has gone to Parliament to say that they should restrict the importation of sugar. You see? So I'm saying that capacity must be developed. And apart from that, what is the problem of domestic producers? Taxes, overloaded with taxes. Have they come out with a policy that they are going to reduce those taxes? Yes, not.
Right.
Electricity. Has he come to tell us that if you're a producer now in Ghana, because of our support to increase your capacity, then we are going to cut down your electricity bill by 50%.
So you say you buy electricity like everybody else, you buy fuel for your machines like everybody else, you pay water like everybody else, no tax holidays for you.
Nothing.
So how do you survive? How do people do it?
So, no, it is just to look at the relationship between what they are doing. They have collapsed deliberately, domestic producers, through policy. The discounted benchmark value, which they started in 2019, we were against it.
The 43 items.
The 43 items. We spoke against it. How do you subsidize imports? Particularly imports that you think you have got the capacity to produce. Are they telling us that in 3-4 years back, that's 2019, they did not know that Ghana has capacity to produce the things they are now seeking to constrain today through the restriction? Are they telling us that?
Listen to the president of the Commander Sugar Factory issue. Listen to him. He said that as of 2022, April, the factory was going to start operating. This was when the chiefs of the Commander area had come to him after 2 years of delay, after he toured the farm. Listen to him.
Still, some civil works are being done there. Nyampa, by the end of March, it will be completed. As I say, planning, no, Indian phone by whenever by April, production will have begun of the sugar factory. Sugar factory, Baba Yasam Cassia. Minum said 1 year, Zukoria, Aquaba, Yami, Adaruma, Afadia, Mse, Muhammad who said, Isikwan Paso, nearby. See, you may say by April, no, Nanyamano, so, a 2 year,
1 year and more have passed. And
you see, my biggest disappointment, it's not that people cannot say things and fail. No, we are not God. We can have our plans and we are not able to succeed with them. Somebody should come and explain to us. If it is His Excellency, that is the highest person in this country with authority and vision for all of us and knows the future more than everybody, can say that it will come into operation in some few months or a year, and yet here we sit years after, nothing. And then the person who is working for the president goes to Parliament to say that I am going to restrict the importation of sugar.
I see. Doc, I bring you in now. Yeah. These are the farmers. You are the researcher. How do we get out of this maze? Because it looks like we have tied ourselves, but we are preaching to the people that, oh, we are fine. How do we get ourselves out of this maze?
Okay, so I think that is one of the things we researchers are looking very keenly into. How do you connect the various policies? Are they speaking to each other? There are a lot of gaps. One way or the other, at one hand, we are holding onto this policy, and the other hand, we have another policy that is fighting against that policy. So, for example,
which policies are we looking at?
For example, let me also introduce this section where we hold currently all governments and the whole world is in COP now, looking at climate change.
That's right.
We are going to sign to a lot of agreements, a lot of treaties.
We do well.
Reduce. We have our NDCs, which is the nationally determined contributions, with their mission targets. What we need to do in Agric. We have all those things. Then we introduce policies. That one way or the other is not speaking to what we have uphold with right hand, and then we fail. So, for example, as he already said,
Mr. Kaiwo,
yes, we cannot continue agriculture as we do in many decades. We continue to make this point. We have another enemy currently, which is climate change. For example, we have been in the field this last year and this year. And this year had a trend. Let's monitor that very well. Maize is going to have some challenges. People grew maize, they harvested, but they were having challenge in drying it because the rains were continuous. Why should we be having challenge when technology, why should you stay at the mercy of the sun without any machine? Even if we use the sun, it should be a power harvested to power drying units to be able to dry the maize.
When the Chinese started that, you remember that with the cocoa?
Yes.
Our former Agric minister who had wanted to be president said, oh, we should not worry. This one is more trouble. When the Chinese started large hectares of cocoa farms, after destroying our cocoa trees, and they started mechanizing the harvesting and the drying and the bagging, they said, oh, we should not worry. Their quality is not like our quality.
It is not.
At the level of policy, that is what he thought.
So exactly what I'm talking about, that the policies must speak to each other. Look, the rains will be different next year. Who is predicting and who is informing the farmers as such? If the pattern is going to change, what are the technologies or the innovation or strategies in place to be able to mitigate those challenges or those risks? That is how policy might speak. Ministry of Energy goes for meeting. They may not be inviting Agric because they don't know that energy is used to power agriculture. Agriculture may be meeting, they don't invite youth, ministry and employment. They don't know that agriculture employs people. That is the missing link.
So you say that, interestingly, they are all cabinet ministers. So
yes.
Youth and Sports Minister is a cabinet minister. Minister of Trade and Industry is a cabinet minister. Minister of Agric is a cabinet minister. Minister of Finance is a cabinet minister. Minister of Energy is a cabinet minister. Even Minister of Education, if we want to have the children reoriented to be interested. So about 6 or so of the ministries are all cabinet ministerial positions. And you say they don't talk to each other because their policies are not in sync?
If, from my experience with research, currently we held stakeholders engagement on this mechanizing agriculture, the energy transition, and then also women in Agric. And I can quote verbatim some policymakers saying that, oh, we never thought of energy as a big deal for agriculture.
They said that in the meeting.
They know they use energy to power agriculture, but they said we don't have a section that really connects that.
Yeah.
Energy
in this country.
Agric. Yeah, they have mechanization. They will tell you, you see, when you have policies that are big and then they have a small dot of layer somewhere mentioning just a very big important component of something that will be able to drive that policy, then you don't give value to it.
But there are PhD holders like you at those ministries who are consultants and who are advisors to the ministers.
They consult they consult. We from United Nations University, we give policy briefs. We engage government. But the real power to move on is the issues.
So you're saying that this PhD people, they comment. We're done with Facebook comments already. So these people that you're talking about, they are permanent, but you're not feeling the impact, or you say they suggest, but the thing is not.
We have technocrats in the ministries.
And what do? They're supposed to be guiding these things, right?
They guide it, but the implementing individuals are the political leaders.
Because if they guide these things, they won't sit in your meeting to say that we never thought that this one and this one they are connected.
They will talk about agric mechanization, but they are not thinking of the energy to power the agriculture sector. Fuel prices are increasing. Apart from fuel prices that are increasing, you have gone to sign to treaties that we want to decarbonize our economy. So we want to reduce emissions. But what are the investments in the renewable energy to power the agriculture sector? Solar dryers shouldn't be a big deal. We should be able to engineer that, and locally.
Let me ask Mr. Norte and bring you in now. We are supposed to be in the harvesting season. Are we harvesting enough to feed ourselves now, the festive season, and to begin the year, the first quarter? Or will we go back to importing woto? Why are you laughing at me?
It depends on the commodity. Every produce and their season, right? So for commodities like cereals, in this case maize and rice and sorghum and millet and stuff like that, this is normally the harvesting period between November, December, early part of January. So it will not be surprising if along this period the prices of such commodities are, I wouldn't say low, but they are reasonable for the average consumer, right? But the problem is that when these things happen, you are likely going to have a lot of harvest from the farmers. And this year, to be very honest with you, the rains have been quite favorable to farmers. So the productivity is a bit high. So we expect some very good level of harvest from the farmers, and that should translate into a reasonable level of produce in the market with at least some stable prices. Right. We should get that. But the problem is, what are we planning to do from maybe March going?
Tell me.
I don't see anything being done.
You have warehouses. Government says they have built 2 warehouses.
There are a lot of the warehouses under the one district, one warehouse, that as I speak, they are still under lock and key.
By all over the country. Who has locked them? National Security?
No, the Ministry of Food and Agric. They are the custodians of these facilities.
And they say, why have they locked it?
I don't know. Because we even began a process as an institution to even acquire one of them to use, because it appears they are not being used. But the processes are just cumbersome and frustrating.
Wow.
You understand? So there are a lot of these facilities. When you go to the districts, they are just an lock and key. They are not being used.
So when you harvest, where do you put them?
The farmers have their own. There are various systems. There are some farmers that they work with people who invest in them, right? So after harvesting, these people come to get their produce back. They get their investment back in kind, right? So they take that load from the farmers. The little that is left, the farmers have their own traditional storage facilities, maybe in their homes. If you go to the north, you see them a lot. There are these mini huts that they store some of them inside, right? So those are the means that we normally do. Or if you have private people who have their own warehouses, they buy them and then store them.
These warehouses that are under lock and key, are they fit for purpose? Because over the time, the Agric people, Zakaria has been explaining to us, okay, maize has to be stored in a certain temperature over time, yam, this, that. Are they fit for purpose?
Well, if you look at the designs of some of them.
Or are they just block and cement?
Well, unfortunately, because it's not in use, you can't even accurately predict whether they are built for purpose. But at least if you look at the design on paper, it appears that they considered all these factors for it to be used on purpose. So even it's an appeal that we've been hammering on. That's why do you put up these facilities? You don't have a system for it to be used. And that over 2 years, some of them are still under lock and key, being it's now be serving as homes for rodents and other animals. It just doesn't make sense.
The warehouses have been locked.
You can send the reporters all over the country. Some of them are locked.
Gee. Zakawe, the warehouses are locked?
Yes.
Why?
Well, there's too much.
Charlie.
What will I say?
Charlie.
Disconnect between the policymakers and those who have got power with the people. So you can't. You can, if you look at the season, and then you ask about the harvesting season. Yes, harvesting season is normal. The good yields that we are expecting, it's not as a result of policy. It's not as a result of that's the point. You see, so it makes the existence of the policymakers unnecessary.
But
in fact,
government takes credit for it. The policymakers take credit for it.
They can't take credit for it. That's why we are resisting that. They can't take credit for it. They try to take credit and we refuse. When they wanted to take credit for the abundance of plantain, we rejected it because they never invested in the production of plantain. They invested in the production of maize. They should have been telling us that because we have had a policy and implemented the policy to increase maize production.
Right.
It is this rice production. They should do that.
So rice, maize, soya, millet.
But this year they did not invest in it in agriculture. They didn't invest.
The year that we
2023 we did not. Meanwhile, we were told years back
2.0
that by that's what the 2.0. It is yet to start. It's yet to start.
Yeah, Johnny, if you allow me, let me add up to the point my colleague is raising. You remember, as he said, that in last year, the former minister, when he tried to attribute the fact that the high prices was not because the food was not available, but because of the middlemen who have intercepted
and the market women.
And the market women. So to prove his theory, he had to go and bring plantain.
Amadan market.
Exactly. Yeah. To go and bring plantain.
With police.
The plantain that he never supported.
But you.
Right. And unfortunately, it appears that we are having a similar trend this year. And we hope that the current minister doesn't also go that same line. This year, we were told, based on a lot of work that we all did, that the PFG1 has been a huge disappointment. We all know. So we all agreed with the ministry when they designed and brought the PFG2. As at September, the ministry actually sent out an expression of interest for institutions and individuals who are interested to work on a PFG 2.0. The PFG 2.0, as he mentioned, is to be led by the private sector. So the government was going to see to it that they bring on board people we call the aggregators. The aggregator is the one going to facilitate and procure seed, fertilizer, and other services for the farmer. The government is just playing the facilitation role and ensure that these things work very well. Now, you brought an expression of interest. People have applied. We've not gotten the results yet. Then, to the greatest shock, you read the 2024 budget, and the ministry is telling us that under PFG 2.0, they've procured and distributed seeds and fertilizer. And the question we ask is, to who? And who did that procurement? Because even per the program design of the PFG, government has no business to procure fertilizer and seeds. So how come in the national budget you put in there that you have procured and distributed amounts of seed and fertilizer to farmers?
So you suspect foul play?
Well, but that's for you to also
Let's speak to Nanaya Osapon Serbo. He's National Best Farmer for 2022. Nana, good morning.
Good morning.
And congratulations are in order to you.
Thank you very much.
What do you do to become a National Best Farmer?
Well, there's a lot that you have to do. Well, first of all, you have to be a farmer. The
Mhm.
first thing is that you have to be a farmer, and then also you don't have to be an absentee farmer. You have to be a farmer who is there, who knows what he's about, and your enterprises, your animal, your livestock, and your crop production should have a very good integration. And then also you should have a lot of modern technology employed in your farm. And then also you should be doing a lot of corporate social responsibility. The impact that you have on the people around your farming community is also very, very, very important. So basically, these are some of the things that you have to do to become the best farmer.
Nana, and is it easy? Because I've been listening to two farmers and a researcher in the studio, and the myriad of issues that they are raising from the policy perspective, how the various ministries are not literally talking to each other in terms of their policy formulation that will inure to the benefit of the farmer, and the challenges that you farmers have to go through on a daily basis. You are a big boy farmer, but what about the younger ones that are trying to get in? Is it worth the while?
Oh, yes, it is worth the while. It is worth the while. I always say that as much as a lot of policy restrictions really, hinders our progress, it is worth the while. The onus is on you, the farmer, to also make sure that you go into, production of things that are demand-driven. Sometimes a lot of people go into farming without even knowing the market for some of these things. You have to do a lot of intelligence when it comes to, the items that you have to, crop. Sometimes you have to go to the market to find out what is, in demand, the season for which some of these things are there, and then all that. So you also have a responsibility as a farmer to get to know the best crop, the season at which to farm, some of these crops. So yes, it is worth a while. For me, it has been worth a while over the past 22 years that I've been farming.
Nana, how many acres of farm do you have?
Oh, my farming estate is about 700 hectares.
I
It's
see.
not acres,
Hectares.
Yes.
And is your farm safe, or people are trying to get through the back door, real estate and galamseyers? Have they been knocking on your door?
Once in a while, you have people then coaching, not even the estate people, even other farmers. Once in a while, you have people in coaching. So it is your responsibility to make sure that you safeguard the boundaries of your farm. These are all things. You have people at the boundaries to secure them for you. So I normally put some of my estates along the boundaries of my farm, so that my workers will be staying there and making it difficult for people to encroach.
Nana,
So
water, electricity, fuel, machinery or technology support, and all of that, tax holidays. Do you get some? Are they available to our farmers?
not really at all. Not really at all. I've always been advocating for even a plant school. A plant school, because it's not everybody who can have money to even go into big machinery, into tractors, into combine harvesters. No. But then if there was to be a plant school whereby you can have access to all these machinery and you can just go and rent them and do your work and then just pay for it, so that it becomes a batch payment for the batch production batch that you are doing. But it's not easy to have access to finance. It's not easy to have access to, the banks are not taking farmlands as collateral. It's not easy to have access to machinery. It's difficult. Irrigation systems are not readily available. These are very huge capital expenditure costs that if the government doesn't come in and subsidize, it is very, very, very difficult for the ordinary farmer to get into some of these things.
Storage of your produce, Nana. Tell me about it. Does it come easy? Is it hard? Is it not too hard? What do you say?
Well, as I said, before I even start producing, I make sure I look for the market. So I have off-takers for some of my produce. And then also, I have, simple drying methods also that I use. I have the Ahoto oven, which I can use to dry some of my my produce. And yes, very, very simple drying method. And they also have refrigerators and all that. But all in all, I make sure that I don't keep a lot of items in inventory.
I see.
A lot. No. I package most of the items also. Do good branding for them. Sell some on various social media. So I virtually sell my items before I start producing them.
I see.
So storage has not been
a problem.
Very big challenge for me.
Nana, my final question to you. I will put the president of the republic in one room with the Agric minister and ask you to tell them now what single policy you think, if introduced, would change the fortunes of agriculture, the farmers, the value chain, and those who depend on it. Just one policy.
The policy of importation. The policy, we import almost virtually everything. Almost everything. And that is the whole thing in agriculture now. Everything is being imported. Food use. Everything. Every little thing. People always talk about that there's not enough buffer. But when do we start? When do we start putting limitations to some of these things? Look at the poultry industry. It's really collapsing. All these things are affecting our foreign exchange. And look at where, the dollar is now. Bringing the dollar down depends predominantly on some of these things, on importation, my brother. You see, want the youth to get into agriculture. But when they get into it, most of them have really gotten into it. But what happens to their produce? And at times, the difficult of it all is that going through the whole hog and finding it difficult to market it because of this import. Okay, so it is a problem that we really have to tackle, because if we don't do that, I don't see a lot of people want to go into have investment that they want to get into agriculture. But trust me, what happens to their produce?
Okay.
The policy, if we're able to come out with policy that will put restriction to this importation and we are able to sell what we produce here, I think that is the best way forward for getting the youth into agriculture.
Nana Yao, Sapon Sribo, 2022 Best Farmer. I thank you very much indeed for your time, Nana.
You're most welcome.
Grateful. Doc, and I'll bring you into the conversation now. Poultry farms, they're collapsing. The last time, and I've been around it, I ran away. The last time I checked, maize is expensive, soya is expensive. The things that we add to these ones to create the feed is expensive. The injectables, if you put it together, you cannot compete with the akukofos, as they call it, as is imported into the country. Again, what are we doing? What can we do?
All right. So this is tying into many factors. Number one, maybe we have also not taken very critical look at our research institutions plug into these sectors. We normally lose a lot of birds every year. We give some small compensation. Are we going to continue doing that? Why was there no mechanism to predict or to even get to stop those diseases from getting into the poultry? So R&D is something that is missing.
Research and development.
The universities are there, CSIR is there, and we have a whole institution established by Kwame Nkrumah, which is called Animal Research Institute. How is government working with those people to see
we are
how
selling
we can,
some of their lands?
Yes, how we can even develop local products, local feeds. We can't continue to import those. So, for example, we will have to tie in the maize. If human beings have not finished eating banku, you can't give the maize to chicken. So we need to produce in view of the human consumption and the ones we want to use for the feed. If we don't,
But you see, Doc, it's important for us to note, if you look at Planting for Food and Jobs, maize is an important member of the things that the policy was supposed to handle. Soya is very important there as well. Millet, about 5 cereals, rice and grains that we said we're going to deal with. And these ones are the ones that go into creating the feed for poultry.
So what happens?
How is it that then poultry farms are collapsing? That people are running away from it?
It is the maize. Poultry farmers can get maize to buy unless there's some few months ago that they were having some challenges. They have to give opportunity for them to bring in some. What I'm trying to say is that you can have a commodity, but if it is high, the price is high. People, you can't make any meaningful economic production. So maize must be in abundance for it to be cheap, for people to be able to purchase and be able to compete with the.
So it should be available and cheap, so man can eat, and then animals
can also eat.
Okay.
And we should also look for alternative feeds. I want to state this point that we can never develop our agriculture sector without the view of the common enemy, which is the climate issues we are dealing with. Scarcity of resources. So number one, if you can't use alternative means, like some farmers I know will be rearing insects like black soldier flies, which is very high. They are larvae that you breed, and they have high source of protein. That instead of when you get your maize, you can add that as a protein feed. Those are climate smart technologies we are looking at.
But you are using weedicides. So even snail now is 65 cedis, one snail. An MP friend of mine took me to a place, bought snail. When they brought the bill, he said, hey, he couldn't believe it. One snail. Because we're using weedicides. We're killing we're killing everything. The things that help,
Johnny,
now centipede, millipede.
Johnny,
When was the last time you saw a vulture, Doc?
A vulture?
Yes.
Maybe in Cape Coast, some few.
Yes.
But Johnny, the issue is that, do you mean that we don't have these chemicals being used in other developed countries that are food sufficient?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that in the past, we used to have Inobwa.
Yes.
So in the community, you can have, today is your turn to clear your land and till the death. We all come and support you. Then we move to the other farm. It was even a source of employment. And then at harvesting, we do the same thing. Maybe that's what the minister thought. We had created 745,000 jobs in the first year of PFJ. But let's leave that.
Johnny is good.
Now I'm saying that we can do that one, right? But now people see the land, they just pick their chemicals and spray everything. So even before they start planting, the worms in the soil are gone.
Yes. They are degrading
bugs,
the soil.
centipede, everything is gone. So now it has to be fertilizer, pump it into the soil. That's what I'm talking about.
That is exactly why I'm mentioning that we must do agriculture in view of the climate change issues. Climate change is the same thing, also pushing them to be able to say that we need to feed more mouths, so we need to produce largely. And then also various industries are developing that are looking lucrative for youth to go into it. So you don't get labor to work for you. I have tried some farms. One of the things that is putting me off is the labor. They have all come to Accra, and some are gone to the Galamsey sites. So that is why we continue to say that if they are moving there, we can't stop them, but we can attract them back by mechanizing the agriculture sector.
Okay, let's listen to this voice, and then I'll pick your thoughts, gentlemen, on this one.
I have the gold. I have plenty money in my pocket, so I don't mind cocoa. Look, I'm now cutting it off, you see? It is my own bonafide property. Nobody can stop me. Stop cutting my own cocoa tree. You plant it for me? Plant it for you, food and job. Am I involved?
Akuma FM 87.9 Kuma.
I have the gold. I have plenty money in my pocket, so I don't mind cocoa. Look, I'm now cutting it off, you see? It is my own bonafide property. Nobody can stop me. Stop cutting my own cocoa tree. You plant it for me? Plant it for you, food and job. Am I involved?
Akuma FM 87.9 Kumasi.
Mr. Notti, this is the reality of an old farmer who says he's planted cocoa for God knows how long. And then just a few months when he started cutting down the cocoa trees, zoomed into Galamsey, he was able to build for himself. He has money. So he was sitting there in his Wellington boot and everything, instructing the people, cut down everything. Until we did the story and the minister had to move in there, they spoke with him. Same with people who have tried farming, it's not working for them because there's no support. Then they say real estate, come and take the land. Galamsey, take the land. That's a big problem, is it not?
It is bigger than you are even saying it.
What don't we know?
There's a similar story also in the cocoa growing areas, where there is this cocoa farmer, who had his farm with other cocoa farmers around him. Then these galamsees came and they wanted to purchase the cocoa farm. He refused. But the problem is that his neighbors, who are also cocoa farmers,
they agreed.
Sold their farms. So before he could realize, all the farms around him, they started their galamsey.
So his
and
house
he was now an island in the midst of galamsey site. So he had no choice
than to sell his
to eventually sell it.
Wow.
So that's how we've allowed this canker to affect our production as a country. And for me, I think that the approach that we are using to address this particular challenge, it doesn't seem to solve the problem, but it appears that we seem okay with it.
Which approach is this?
And that's my worry.
Which approach?
No, the approach by the states, right, to regarding this galamsey.
Yeah.
You understand? Because for me, I don't understand why. Obviously, there are equipment that are being used for this galamsey activities. The states, resourced with all the amenities and all the equipment in the world, all the security apparatus we have, and you are telling me that the state is not able to monitor. I'm told we spent some huge sums of money to purchase some Navy boats and some drones to monitor this galamsey. And somehow people still find ways of doing galamsey both day and night. And I get shocked. And it's not only affecting only the cocoa subsector, right? If you come even to Western region, the other food crops, other food farmers who grow vegetables and co, they're also losing their lives to galamsey.
Wow.
Even in addition, and that's another point that we have to be very careful. It appears that now a lot of farmers are beginning to see that there is value in the production of cash crops as against food crops. So if you go to Western region, where they used to do a lot of maize and rice and vegetables, now they are all venturing into rubber production.
Hey.
Because it pays very well.
But we can't eat rubber.
But they are taking up their money because they are making good money from the sale of the rubber. So to get to a point where now a lot of farmers realize that there's no value in food production, but rather there is value in cash crop production. And that's the dangerous part that we are also heading towards, if you are not careful. So it's not even only about the galamsey, that's an issue. But the fact that in other areas, people are beginning to...
the cash crops are more lucrative.
On cash crops such as rubber, if you are not careful, it will get to a point in time, there will be no single food item that will not import into this country.
Hey, Zachariah, we have to go. This situation is a serious one.
Yes, I was, that's my operational areas. So rubber, all the plantations, right, either oil, palm or rubber, I've been to all of them and I go there. You see, the rubber plantations are also on the siege. I mean, all the plantations in general are also on the siege with the galamsey. And when they report the matter to the authorities, they tell them that they should coexist with the galamsey.
Wow.
Look,
the authorities tell them to coexist.
You see, the things we don't want to say are the things that they are doing, and they don't want us to say it. And I know, after all, if eminent people, renowned people, make statements and even put into writing, and then it can be declared that there's no evidence in what they're saying. I don't care when they say that there's no evidence in whatever I'm saying. But I'm telling you, go there. Look, can you, government allocate some of these lands that are being used for the plantations, by the plantations, for community mining? For community mining.
Wow.
Look, some of these companies were headed to state institutions and they were divested. So the state has got an equity share in the companies by way of the land. Now, If you even want to take their land for community mining, you need to, consult
Properly
them and
see
agree with
them, yes.
No, they wake up and go and take it.
Just like that.
What signal are you sending to investors?
Your investment is not safe.
And then where even the Galamseyers go and take over the land and they report you tell them that they should coexist.
How do they coexist? I'm
That
putting
is-
heavy metals in the water, and then I'm supposed to be planting alongside.
Even the trees, they cut them down. They cut the trees down for their Galamsey. So how can the trees and Galamsey coexist? Look, let me tell you, that old man, he spoke his mind, and that is how we should all speak. I have my cocoa farm. You have not supported me.
You say I should not cut my tree.
I should not cut it.
Planting
Do
for
whatever
food
you want
and
to
jobs,
do.
am I part of it?
You know, where they have to act, they are not acting. So, as for the Galamsey thing, it is not that our measures approach to fight it is bad. No, we are just not ready to fight it. In fact, we are promoting it. We are promoting. The state should tell us that they are not promoting it. Because you see the waters, you see the excavators, you have regional ministers in all the regions, you have commanders, police commanders, district chief executives,
National security.
national security, and all manner of people.
You use Gota to go and buy watch it, near national security.
And you say that you don't know about this? You don't know those who send the excavators there? When journalists risk their lives. In fact, Johnny,
Yes, sir.
you know what?
No, sir.
I think I may change my mind.
To what?
Not to do journalism. Because I thought that was one area I just need to do. Because I just admire journalists.
It's a dangerous field.
I just admire journalists. You see, one, if you have ideas, you are either able to articulate them or you are able to put those ideas on
Right.
paper. And I think the journalists, this is what they. How can journalists risk their lives to those areas and bring you information? Then you tell them that.
The information is not about even the
Why?
The Minister for Science and Environment and Technology, Prof. He brought evidence. He said,
And I'm coming to him. All of us, you can replay when he was being appointed as a minister. I can remember some of the words.
the mandate.
The man is an eminent professor, a renowned surgeon. You give his CV. By then, he was an eminent and renowned professor. When he started to write to you about the job you have given him and what is happening there, and you gave him the job, he must account to you. So he writes to you. Now today, that man is a liar.
It's a dangerous man.
He's a liar because what he has put there, there's no evidence. If I say anything about you and there's no evidence, it means I am a liar.
Right.
So you are simply telling him that he's a liar. So what about me then? Who again will not be a liar? So it is not that we are fighting Galamsey. We should just get to that point and accept it that we are not fighting Galamsey. We are promoting Galamsey.
Doc, we're wrapping up. 30 seconds. What do you tell us?
I think all hope is not lost. Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes, the resources are there. All we need to
You have research data to back this. What you're saying?
The hope is not lost because we have the resources and we have just the willpower to also change some of this policy and move in the right direction.
Willpower doesn't
If we
come
don't give
easy.
this hope, then we are also doomed as a country. So I think we should be able to mechanize our agriculture in a climate smart way. Let's be able to let policy speak to each other. Let's finance it. And then let's also make sure that we bring R&D into research. Look, currently, my dad was the best regional farmer for Volta region in 2005.
I see.
And I grew up in the farm and I knew how extension officers play a critical role. They are inadequate now, you can't even find them. If we don't make input to training people to know the current trend so that they can also pass that knowledge to farmers, then we are on the wrong path.
I see.
So
you have hope.
I have hope.
I like you.
Because the resources are there, we just need to put energy to make sure that we now speak in the right direction.
I hear you.
And I also want to thank all the farmers. I want to say Happy Farmers Day to them.
Right.
And not also forgetting the agricultural researchers who are making a lot of effort to help these farmers and Agric Extension officers. Happy Farmers Day to everybody.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Mr. Naughty. I say Nitete also.
That's the name actually.
That's the name actually, yes. Nitete also. Yeah.